August 6, 1942. The waters off New Ireland, in the South Pacific. It's just after midnight. The ocean is black, no moon, no stars, just darkness and the sound of waves slapping against steel. A Japanese heavy cruiser called the Kako is steaming through the night. She's heading home. Her crew is tired, but they're smiling. They just won a huge battle 2 nights ago. They sank 3 Allied cruisers near Guadalcanal. It was one of the most lopsided naval victories Japan has ever had. The men on deck are smoking cigarettes. Some are writing letters. Others are already asleep below. They feel safe. They're far from enemy territory now. Just a few more hours and they'll be back in port. But 3,000 yards away, hidden beneath the surface, an old American submarine is watching. The USS S-44. Her captain, Lieutenant Commander John Moore, is staring through the periscope. He can barely believe what he's seeing. A massive Japanese warship. Alone, no escorts, no zigzagging, just cruising in a straight line like she owns the ocean. Moore whispers the order. Fire all torpedoes. 5 torpedoes streak through the water. And in less than 5 minutes, the Kako is gone, sunk, over 70 men dead. Back in Tokyo, Japanese admirals get the news. And for the first time since Pearl Harbor, some of them start to realize something terrifying. This war might not go the way they planned. If you love stories like this, stories of courage, sacrifice, and history that changed the world, hit that subscribe button. We bring you the untold tales of World War II every single week. Don't miss the next one. December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The attack is over. Japanese planes are heading back to their carriers. Behind them, the harbor is burning. Battleships are sinking. Oil is spreading across the water. Smoke is rising thousands of feet into the air. In Tokyo, the news arrives. The military leaders are celebrating. They're popping champagne, slapping each other on the back. They just pulled off one of the boldest surprise attacks in history. But one man isn't celebrating. Admiral Yamamoto, the man who planned the whole thing. He's sitting quietly in his office. He knows something the others don't seem to understand. Yes, they sank battleships. Yes, they killed over 2,000 Americans. Yes, they shocked the world. But they didn't sink the American aircraft carriers. The Enterprise, Lexington, and Saratoga were all out at sea that day. They survived. And Yamamoto knows that carriers are the future of naval war, not battleships. He also knows something else, something that keeps him awake at night. America is huge. It has factories that stretch for miles, farms that feed the world, oil fields, steel mills, shipyards. Japan is a small island nation. It has to import almost everything: oil, steel, rubber, food. Yamamoto once lived in America. He studied at Harvard. He saw the car factories in Detroit. He walked through the streets of New York and San Francisco. He told his friends before the war, "If we fight America, I can give you 6 months of victory, maybe a year. After that, I have no idea what will happen." Now, in December 1941, the clock is ticking. Japan has 6 months to win this war, or America will bury them. December 8, 1941. The day after Pearl Harbor, President Franklin Roosevelt stands in front of Congress. His voice is calm but angry. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. Congress votes for war. It takes less than an hour. And just like that, everything changes. Across America, people are lining up at recruiting stations. The lines go around the block. Farm boys, factory workers, college students, they all want to join. They want payback. But anger alone doesn't win wars. You need ships, planes, tanks, guns, bullets, fuel. And America is about to show the world what it can do. In Detroit, car factories stopped making cars. Now they're making bombers and tanks. Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, they all switch overnight. In California, new shipyards are being built in weeks. Places that used to be empty dirt are now filled with cranes and welding torches and thousands of workers. Women join the workforce. Rosie the Riveter isn't just a poster. She's real. Millions of women are building planes and ships while the men are off fighting. The goal is simple: build faster than the enemy can destroy. Henry Kaiser, a shipbuilder, makes a promise. He says he can build a Liberty cargo ship in less than 2 weeks. People laugh. It's impossible. He does it in 4 days. By the end of the war, America will build over 2,700 Liberty ships. Japan, meanwhile, is struggling. They have 10 major shipyards. America has over 100. Japan can build maybe 1 or 2 carriers a year. America can build a dozen. The math is brutal. And in early 1942, Japanese admirals are starting to see the numbers. They just don't want to believe it yet. May 1942. The Coral Sea, northeast of Australia. For 5 months, Japan has been unstoppable. They took the Philippines, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, the Dutch East Indies. They're sweeping across the Pacific like a tidal wave. Now they want Port Moresby in New Guinea. If they take it, they can threaten Australia, cut it off from America. But this time, the Americans are ready. American codebreakers have cracked Japan's naval codes. They know the attack is coming. They know where, they know when. 2 American carriers, the Lexington and Yorktown, sail out to meet them. This is the first time in history that 2 carrier fleets will fight each other. The ships never even see each other. It's all done by planes. The battle lasts 3 days. It's chaos, pilots taking off in the rain, bombs falling, torpedoes streaking through the water, ships burning, men screaming. When it's over, the Japanese have sunk the Lexington. A huge American carrier, they celebrate, they think they won. But they didn't. Yes, they sank 1 carrier, but the Yorktown survived. And more importantly, Japan had to turn back. They didn't take Port Moresby. The invasion was called off. And 2 of Japan's best carriers, the Shikoku and Zuikaku, were damaged. Not sunk, but damaged. They need months of repairs. Their air crews are exhausted. They've lost dozens of experienced pilots. That's the thing about carrier warfare. You can win the fight and still lose the war. Because Japan doesn't have unlimited carriers or unlimited pilots. America does. When the Lexington sinks, America starts building 2 more carriers to replace it. When Japan loses pilots at Coral Sea, there's no easy way to replace them. Training takes years, and Japan doesn't have years. One Japanese officer writes in his diary, "We won the battle, but I have a bad feeling about this." He should, because in 3 weeks, everything is about to fall apart. June 4th, 1942. Midway Island, a tiny speck of land in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Japan wants it. If they take Midway, they can threaten Hawaii, maybe even force America to negotiate peace. Admiral Yamamoto is leading the operation himself. He's bringing the biggest fleet Japan has ever assembled. 4 aircraft carriers, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, over 200 ships. He thinks the Americans don't know they're coming. He's wrong. Once again, American codebreakers figured it out. Admiral Chester Nimitz knows exactly where the Japanese fleet will be, and when. He sends 3 carriers to meet them. The Enterprise, the Hornet, and the Yorktown patched up and rushed back from Coral Sea, still leaking oil. Early morning, June 4th. Japanese planes attack Midway Island. They bomb the runways, set buildings on fire, but the island holds. Then the American carriers strike back. Wave after wave of American torpedo bombers go after the Japanese carriers. Most of them get shot down. It's a slaughter. The Japanese pilots feel invincible. But those torpedo bombers did something important. They pulled the Japanese fighter planes down low, down to the ocean. And that's when the American dive bombers arrive, high from the sun. No one sees them coming. At 10:22 a.m., 3 American dive bombers scream down on the carrier Akagi. Bombs smash through the flight deck. Planes full of fuel explode. Fire spreads instantly. Minutes later, the Kaga is hit, then the Soryu. 3 Japanese carriers are burning, all within 5 minutes. By the end of the day, a 4th carrier, the Huryu, is also destroyed. 4 carriers gone. Over 3,000 Japanese sailors dead. Dozens of Japan's best pilots, men who bombed Pearl Harbor, are gone. Japan will never recover from this. One Japanese officer watches the Akagi burn and whispers, "We are defeated. The war isn't over, not even close. But the tide has turned, and everyone knows it." Real quick, if you're enjoying this story, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. It helps us keep bringing you these incredible true stories from history. All right, let's get back to the battle. August 7th, 1942. Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. It's 6 a.m. The jungle is thick and quiet. Morning mist hangs low over the trees. Then the sky fills with the roar of engines. American warships appear offshore. Dozens of them, carriers, battleships, cruisers, transports packed with Marines. This is Operation Watchtower, the first American offensive of the war. For 8 months, America has been on defense, reacting, retreating, losing ground. Not anymore. 19,000 Marines hit the beaches. They're nervous. Most of them have never seen combat. They expect heavy resistance. But the beach is empty. The Japanese didn't think the Americans would attack here. They weren't ready. Most of the Japanese soldiers on the island are construction workers, not fighters. They run into the jungle. By the end of the day, the Marines control the airfield. They rename it Henderson Field. Back in Tokyo, the news hits like a bomb. The Americans are attacking, already. Japanese commanders are shocked, angry, embarrassed. They thought they had more time. They thought America was still licking its wounds from Pearl Harbor. But here's the thing about America, it doesn't stay down. 2 months after Midway, the U.S. is already on offense, already taking ground, already pushing back. Japan immediately starts planning a counterattack. They send ships, planes, reinforcements. The fight for Guadalcanal is about to become one of the bloodiest campaigns in the Pacific. And Japan is about to learn a hard lesson. When you're fighting a war of attrition, a war where it's about who can replace losses faster, you better make sure you can keep up. Because America is just getting started. Japan, on the other hand, is already running out of steam. The math is catching up, and some Japanese admirals are starting to see it. August 9, 1942, 2 days after the Marines landed on Guadalcanal. It's just after midnight. The waters north of the island are pitch black. No moon, heavy clouds. You can barely see 100 yards in front of you. A group of Allied warships is patrolling the area. American and Australian cruisers. Their job is to protect the transport ships unloading supplies for the Marines. The sailors are exhausted. They've been at battle stations for 2 days straight. Some of them are dozing off at their posts. They have no idea what's coming. 7 Japanese warships are steaming toward them in the dark. Cruisers and destroyers. They're moving fast. No lights, complete radio silence. The Japanese have trained for this. Night fighting is their specialty. They've practiced it for years. At 1:43 a.m., Japanese lookouts spot the Allied ships. The Japanese commander gives the order, torpedoes in the water, guns ready. The first Allied ship to get hit is the Australian cruiser Canberra. Shells slam into her from point-blank range. She's on fire in seconds. Then the American cruiser Chicago gets hit. Torpedoes rip into her bow. The other American cruisers, Astoria, Quincy, Vincennes, try to react. But it's too late. They're silhouetted against the fires, perfect targets. The Japanese gunners don't miss. Within 30 minutes, 3 American cruisers are sinking. Over 1,000 sailors are dead. The Japanese don't lose a single ship. It's one of the worst defeats in U.S. Navy history. When the sun comes up, the survivors are in shock. How did this happen? How did the Japanese get so close without being detected? Back in Japan, the news is celebrated. Newspapers call it a great victory, proof that Japan still controls the seas. And on paper, it is a victory. But here's what the Japanese commanders don't say out loud. Yes, they won the battle, but they didn't destroy the transports. The American supplies still made it to shore. The Marines are still there. And Japan just used up fuel, ammunition, and resources they can't easily replace. Winning battles is one thing. Winning the war is something else. August 9, 1942. After the battle at Savo Island, the Japanese heavy cruiser Kako is heading home. She's steaming north, back toward the big Japanese naval base at Rabaul. The Kako is a veteran. She's been fighting since the start of the war. She helped invade the Philippines. She fought at the Battle of Java Sea. She just finished smashing the Allied cruisers at Savo Island 2 nights ago. Her crew is proud, confident they've never been hit, never even been seriously threatened. On the deck, sailors are relaxing. Some are cleaning their guns, others are smoking. A few are playing cards below deck. The captain isn't worried. They're far from Guadalcanal now, far from the American carriers. No enemy planes in sight, no threats. He orders the ship to sail in a straight line. No zigzagging, no escorts. He wants to get home fast. It's a mistake. Beneath the waves, an old American submarine is lurking. The USS S-44. She's one of the oldest subs in the U.S. Navy, built back in the 1920s. Slow, cramped, uncomfortable. The crew calls her a pig boat because she's so clunky. But her captain, Lieutenant Commander John Moore, is patient and lucky. He's been patrolling these waters for days, hoping to find something, anything. And now, through his periscope, he sees the Kako, a massive Japanese cruiser. Alone, no destroyers protecting her, just cruising along like she's on a Sunday drive. Moore can't believe his eyes. He checks the distance, the angle, the speed. Everything is perfect. He whispers to his crew, "This is it, we're taking the shot." The Kako has no idea she's being hunted. In a few minutes, she'll be at the bottom of the ocean. And the Japanese Navy is about to lose something more valuable than just a ship. They're about to lose their confidence. August 6, 1942. Just after midnight, the USS is sitting 3,000 yards away from the Kako, hidden, silent, waiting. Inside the sub, it's hot, sweaty. The air smells like diesel and sweat. The crew is crammed together, barely moving. Nobody's talking. They're all holding their breath. Lieutenant Commander Moore is staring through the periscope. His hands are steady, but his heart is racing. He's lining up the shot. The Kako is moving at about 12 knots, still in a straight line, still alone. Moore does the math in his head: distance, speed, angle. He has one chance. If he misses, the Kako will turn and run. Or worse, it'll hunt them down and sink them. He gives the order. Fire 1, fire 2, fire 3, fire 4. 4 torpedoes launch from the S-44. They streak through the dark water, trailing bubbles. The crew counts in their heads: 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds. Then, boom! The first torpedo slams into the Kako's starboard side. The explosion is massive. It lights up the night. Boom, boom. 2 more hit, right in the engine room. On the Kako, chaos erupts. Sailors are thrown off their feet. Alarms are screaming. Water is flooding in fast. The lights flicker and go out. The captain tries to give orders, but it's too late. The ship is already listing hard to one side. Men are running, sliding, falling. Some jump into the ocean. Others are trapped below deck as the water rushes in. 5 minutes. That's all it takes. The Kako rolls over and sinks. Over 70 men go down with her. The survivors cling to wreckage, floating in the dark, waiting for rescue. Inside the S-44, the crew erupts in cheers. They did it. They just sank a Japanese heavy cruiser. Moore orders the sub to dive and get out of there fast. No time to celebrate. Other Japanese ships might be nearby. As the S-44 slips away into the darkness, Moore writes in the log, "Fired 4 torpedoes, all hit, target sunk." Short, simple, professional. But that one sentence changes everything. Because the Kako isn't just another ship. She's the first major Japanese warship sunk in the Solomon Islands campaign. And when the news reaches Tokyo, the admirals finally start doing the math. August 7th, 1942. Tokyo, Japan. The telegram arrives at Imperial Navy headquarters early in the morning. Heavy cruiser Kako sunk by enemy submarine. Approximate position off New Ireland. Survivors being recovered. The room goes silent. Admirals stare at the message. Read it again. Some of them don't say anything. They just sit there. The Kako was supposed to be untouchable. She just won a major battle. She was heading home. She was in supposedly safe waters. And now she's gone, sunk by an old American submarine. One admiral finally speaks. How many submarines do the Americans have in these waters? Nobody knows for sure. 10, 20, 50. It doesn't matter. The point is clear. The Americans are everywhere now. Another officer pulls out a map. He starts marking all the recent losses: ships, planes, bases. Midway, 4 carriers lost. Coral Sea, 2 carriers damaged, out of action for months. Guadalcanal, Americans landed and took the airfield. Savo Island, yes, Japan won, but the transport still got through. And now the Kako, sunk before she could even make it home. Then someone does the math out loud. We started the war with 10 fleet carriers. We've lost 4, 2 are in repair. That leaves 4 operational carriers. He pauses. America started with 7 carriers. They lost 2, but they're building more, lots more. They'll have over a dozen by next year. The room goes quiet again. It's not just carriers, it's everything. Japan can build maybe 2 or 3 major warships a year. America can build 50. Japan is training a few hundred new pilots. America is training thousands. Japan is rationing fuel. America has so much oil it's practically giving it away. One of the older admirals, a man who fought in the Russo-Japanese War, shakes his head. "We needed to win this war in 6 months, he says quietly. It's been 8 months, and we're not winning anymore. Someone mentions Yamamoto's warning before Pearl Harbor: 6 months, maybe a year. After that, no guarantees. That deadline has passed, and now, every day the war continues, America gets stronger. Japan gets weaker. The Kako wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol. And its sinking was the moment the admirals realized the truth. They're not going to win this war." August 1942 to February 1943. Guadalcanal. The fight for this tiny island becomes a nightmare for both sides. The Japanese keep sending reinforcements, troops, supplies, warships. They're determined to take back the airfield and kick the Americans out. But every time they try, it costs them. They send convoys down a route the Americans start calling the slot. It's a narrow stretch of water between islands. At night, Japanese destroyers race down, drop off troops and supplies, and race back before sunrise. The Americans call it the Tokyo Express. The Japanese call it the Rat Run. It works sometimes, but it's expensive. Destroyers aren't meant to be transport ships. They're warships. And using them to haul rice and ammunition means they're not doing their real job. Meanwhile, American submarines are everywhere, waiting, hunting. Every time a Japanese ship heads toward Guadalcanal, there's a chance it won't come back. And the losses add up. Cruisers, destroyers, transports, submarines. Japan is bleeding ships. But it's not just ships, it's people. On Guadalcanal, Japanese soldiers are starving. They're cut off, sick, dying of malaria and dysentery. Some are so hungry they're eating tree bark. The Americans aren't doing great either. They're fighting in brutal heat, thick jungle, mud, disease, but they have something the Japanese don't. Supply lines that work. American ships keep bringing food, medicine, ammunition, reinforcements. The Japanese ships, they're getting sunk before they can deliver anything. By December 1942, Japan's leaders make a decision, a painful one. They're going to evacuate Guadalcanal. They don't call it a retreat, they call it a strategic withdrawal. But everyone knows what it really is. Defeat. In February 1943, the last Japanese soldiers leave the island. Over 30,000 Japanese troops fought on Guadalcanal. More than half of them are dead. Japan also lost 2 battleships, 4 cruisers, 11 destroyers, and 6 submarines, and dozens of transport ships. America lost ships too, but the difference is simple. America can replace them, Japan can't. One Japanese officer writes in his journal, "We are pouring water into a bottomless bucket. No matter how much we give, it is never enough." Guadalcanal wasn't the end of the war, but it was the beginning of the end for Japan. August 6, 1942, the day the Kako sank. It wasn't the biggest battle of the war. It wasn't the most dramatic. Most people have never even heard of it. But for the Japanese admirals sitting in Tokyo, reading that telegram, it was the day the numbers finally became impossible to ignore. Pearl Harbor was supposed to buy Japan time. 6 months, maybe a year, time to grab territory, build defenses, force America to negotiate peace. And for a while it worked. Japan swept across the Pacific. They took islands, destroyed fleets, shocked the world. But they made one fatal miscalculation. They thought America would be too hurt, too scared, too divided to fight back. They were wrong. America didn't collapse, it got angry, it got organized, and it got to work. While Japan was celebrating victories, America was building shipyards, training pilots, cranking out planes and tanks and ships faster than anyone thought possible. By the summer of 1942, the math was clear. Japan started the war with a smaller economy, fewer resources, and a limited industrial base. Every ship they lost was almost impossible to replace. Every experienced pilot killed was gone forever. America, on the other hand, was just warming up. For every ship Japan sank, America built 3 more. For every plane shot down, 5 more rolled off the assembly line. The Kako was just one cruiser, but her sinking symbolized something bigger. It showed that Japan couldn't protect its ships anymore, couldn't control the seas, couldn't even get their own vessels home safely. And if you can't control the ocean, you can't win a war in the Pacific. The Japanese admirals knew this. Some of them had known it all along. Yamamoto tried to warn them. He told them, "We have 6 months. After that, I don't know." August 6, 1942, was 8 months after Pearl Harbor. The deadline had passed, and from that day forward, Japan was fighting a war it couldn't win. Not because their soldiers weren't brave, they were. Not because their ships weren't good, they were. But because wars aren't won by courage alone. They're won by factories, by oil fields, by the ability to replace what you lose and keep fighting. Japan gambled everything on a quick knockout punch. But America got back up. And once it did, the outcome was inevitable. Pearl Harbor woke the sleeping giant. And by August 1942, that giant was wide awake and coming for them. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, if it made you think, subscribe. There are so many more stories like this. Stories of bravery, of sacrifice, of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and we'll keep telling them. As long as you keep watching. See you in the next one.